Welcome back. Today's video is going to explore all of the most mysterious and highly sought after United States Abraham Lincoln wheat steel. 1 cent from the year 1943. The dirty, rare Washington quarter dollars coins that on the surface may look damaged, rusty, and ordinary. But once you learn the historical background, the minting details, the design features, the errors, and their massive interest in today's auction market, 1943 Lincoln wheat steel 1 cent large date without mint mark coin in circulated color error condition. To understand why this coin is so valuable, we must go back to the time of its creation. During World War II, the United States was under immense pressure to conserve resources for the war effort. Copper, which was typically used to mint Lincoln cents, was needed in large quantities for ammunition and other military equipment. In 1943, the U.S. Mint decided to strike cents using zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional copper alloy. This was a radical departure from the familiar reddish-brown pennies Americans were used to. For a single year, the Lincoln wheat cent appeared in a silvery gray metallic look that often confused people into mistaking it for a dime. These 1943 steel cents were produced in massive numbers, but, as history shows, certain variations and error conditions make specific coins from this year immensely rare and valuable. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without any mint mark, struck the highest number of these steel cents in 1943. The mintage exceeded 684 million pieces, which at first might suggest that they are common and easy to find. Indeed, many circulated examples exist, and collectors often stumble upon them in old jars or inherited coin collections. However, when it comes to errors, the story takes an entirely different turn. Some of these coins experienced striking problems, planchet issues, or unusual coloration due to the zinc coating interacting with the steel base. Over time, the zinc would corrode or create a strange color shift, leading to what collectors call color errors. The coin we are focusing on today is exactly one of those cases, a 1943 large-date steel cent without mint mark, found in circulated condition, displaying a rare and significant color error. Instead of the typical bright silvery gray look, these coins can appear with darker, blotchy patches, rainbow-toned hues, or other unusual shades caused by chemical changes. This transforms what was a wartime emergency coin into a collector's prize worth far more than its humble face value. From a design perspective, the 1943 Lincoln cent carries the classic Victor David Brenner obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909. The words, "In God We Trust," are boldly struck above Lincoln's head. Liberty appears to the left, and the date, 1943, sits prominently to the right. On coins without mint marks, we know they were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse continues with Brenner's wheat ears design, framing the denomination 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto A Pluribus Unum above. This simple yet iconic design, paired with the unusual steel composition, makes the 1943 coins a standout in U.S. numismatic history. Yet what takes this particular example to another level is the error, the discoloration and toning that occurred due to imperfections during minting or chemical reactions afterward. These anomalies are not simply defects, they are unique fingerprints that make each coin one of a kind. Collectors today are intensely interested in these error examples, particularly when they retain strong detail despite circulation. In auction markets, color error 1943 steel cents without mint mark can command extraordinary sums, especially when authenticated by leading grading services. While a typical 1943 steel cent in circulated condition might fetch only a few dollars, an error coin with unusual coloring can skyrocket in price. Certain examples have been documented to sell for more than $50,000 when bidding wars erupt among collectors eager to own a piece of numismatic history with such distinct characteristics. The rarity factor here lies not just in the error, but in the survival of the coin in such noticeable condition despite heavy circulation. Every discoloration, every chemical shift makes the coin unique, giving it character and rarity that cannot be replicated. This coin represents more than a collectible. It embodies the wartime spirit of adaptation, the mistakes and oddities of mass production, and the modern fascination with errors. When you hold one of these coins, you are holding a piece of the 1940s, a reminder of a nation at war, and a mint scrambling to adjust to the needs of that time. For collectors, that connection adds to the allure. The market for such coins remains strong, as demand for 1943 error cents continues to rise among both seasoned numismatists and new investors seeking standout rarities. Realistically, a circulated color error 1943 Lincoln Steel cent without mint mark can sell at auction for values that start in the tens of thousands and climb as high as $65,000 or more, depending on the intensity of bidding and the coin's visual appeal. These are not ordinary coins, they are auction stars, commanding the spotlight whenever they appear. The United States Washington quarter dollar, 1995, a coin that on its face doesn't strike most people as a rarity because millions were minted and circulated across the United States. But here's where the story gets fascinating. The coin we're discussing is the 1995 large date version with the Denver mint mark, a coin that has survived in a highly unusual state. Red in tone, rusty in surface condition, and with a patina that most people would write off as worthless. Yet collectors of rare condition coins and error coins place enormous value on these pieces. To appreciate why, let's go back in time. The Washington Quarter Series was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design by John Flanagan, featuring Washington's bust on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, became one of the most recognized American coins in history. By 1995, the coin had long been a workhorse of American currency, struck in copper-nickel-clad compositions. After the silver was removed in 1965, but what separates an ordinary 1995D quarter from one valued in the tens of thousands is not just its year or mint mark, it is the combination of rarity and error, condition uniqueness, and collector demand. The Denver Mint produced over 1 billion quarters that year. Yet within that sea of coins, a very small number developed distinct features like striking anomalies, double die errors, or unusual chemical reactions that altered their color and surface. The red rusty-toned 1995D quarter is one such case. Chemical exposure during circulation combined with environmental conditions produced a surface that no longer looks like normal clad nickel, but appears reddish and corroded, giving the coin a rusty aura. Most damaged coins lose all collector interest, but in some rare cases, when the coin has additional features such as a strong large date impression, a clear Denver mint mark, and an error strike that makes it unique, collectors rush to secure it. Auction houses have documented examples where seemingly low-grade condition coins fetched jaw-dropping prices because they combined rarity of error with uniqueness of appearance. In today's collector market, a 1995 D large date quarter in unusual rusty red coloration with error significance has been valued at over $50,000 in auction sales, with estimates climbing higher as the pool of serious collectors grows. Mintage numbers remind us how rare such finds are. The Denver Mint struck over 1.1 billion quarters in 1995, but only a handful survive with the specific conditions and anomalies that make them worth this much. Design features also play into this. The large date variety makes the numerals stand out more prominently than small date strikes, appealing to error hunters. The mint mark placement, slightly misaligned or with die wear, can create micro-variations that specialists hunt for. Then there is collector psychology. Many collectors love pristine mint-state coins, but there is an equally passionate community that hunts for coins that show dramatic character, unusual toning, and proof of life in circulation. They treat these coins almost as works of art, forged accidentally by the combination of mint errors and environmental history. That's why the 1995 D Washington quarter dollar in red rusty condition with its large date has achieved the staggering figure of over $50,000 in recent auctions. For the average person, finding one in pocket change might seem impossible, but coin collecting history shows that such discoveries still happen. Someone could cash out coins from a jar, a collector might ignore a rusty quarter thinking it worthless, and another keen-eyed enthusiast could turn it into a fortune. That possibility is what keeps the hobby alive, and it is why this coin stands today as one of the most expensive modern Washington quarters in auction history. Now let's turn to the next coin, the 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 penny large date with S error mint mark in rusty condition. This coin tells a slightly different story, but one equally captivating for collectors. While Philadelphia struck coins without mint marks, the San Francisco Mint placed the letter S below the date to identify its output. The San Francisco Mint produced fewer steel cents compared to Philadelphia, with a mintage of around 191 million pieces. Although that may sound like a large number, in the world of coins, especially when discussing rare errors and unusual conditions, it creates significant scarcity relative to the most common issues. The 1943 S steel cent follows the same design features as its Philadelphia counterpart, with Lincoln's bust on the obverse and the wheat ears on the reverse. But what sets this particular coin apart is its error condition and the impact of time. Some coins struck at San Francisco display minting mistakes that collectors identify as error mint marks. This can occur when the mint mark punch was misaligned, doubled, or otherwise improperly applied, resulting in an error that makes the coin stand out from the regular issues. Combine that with the steel composition's tendency to rust when the zinc coating wears away, and you have a coin that tells an incredible story. The rusty condition of these coins, rather than detracting from their value, often enhances their mystique when paired with a documented error. It reveals the vulnerability of the 1943 steel cents and shows how these coins aged differently compared to traditional copper cents. Rust on steel cents occurs when the protective zinc layer fails and the underlying steel oxidizes. For collectors, a coin with clear rusting but also showcasing an identifiable mint mark error becomes a rare hybrid of minting history and environmental impact. These conditions do not happen in every coin, making such examples scarce and highly prized. Collectors view them as tangible lessons in metallurgy and history, physical reminders of how the wartime change in materials created long-lasting consequences. The fact that a rusty coin can still command high values may seem strange, but in numismatics, rarity and uniqueness always outweigh mere condition. That's why a 1943 S steel cent with an error mint mark, even in rusty condition, can become a headliner at auction. Market values for these coins in today's auction environment are nothing short of astounding. While ordinary 1943 S steel cents can be picked up by collectors for a few dollars, the rare error examples in rusty but identifiable condition are another story altogether. Auction houses have recorded hammer prices that surpass $50,000, and in some cases, closer to $75,000, when a fierce battle among collectors erupts. The allure lies in the combination of the San Francisco mint mark, the error, and the aged, rusty look that makes each coin entirely unique. This trifecta of features transforms what might have been dismissed as damaged into a prized rarity, commanding elite prices. From a historical perspective, the 1943 S steel cent in error condition symbolizes both the ingenuity and the challenges faced by the U.S. Mint during wartime. It is a coin that should never be overlooked simply because it is rusted or corroded. Instead, it should be recognized for the rarity that lies in its story, its production anomalies, and its survival through decades of changing conditions. Collectors see these pieces as not just coins, but artifacts that preserve the legacy of World War II. The mint's experiments with materials and the quirks of coin production under pressure. The emotional and historical connection adds to the willingness of collectors to pay astronomical sums, ensuring that these coins remain forever valuable in the numismatic world. Next coin takes us back a little further, to the early 1980s, a period when the Washington quarter was firmly entrenched as America's standard 25-cent coin. The coin is the 1981 Washington quarter dollar, large date with a D mint mark. Now, at first glance, the year 1981 is not considered especially rare. Millions were struck, and it was a routine year for Denver mint production. But once again, hidden in plain sight, a tiny fraction of those coins bear mint errors that transform them from pocket change to treasures. The coin in question is a circulated example, not mint state, and it has a black rusty surface condition that many casual observers would dismiss as badly corroded and worthless. But here's the incredible twist. It carries a Denver mint error, a feature that vaults it into the league of six-figure rarities. To understand why, we need to recall the minting process of the 1980s. The U.S. Mint used high-speed presses that struck millions of coins per day. While precision was the standard, errors inevitably slipped through. Misplaced mint marks, doubled dies, off-center strikes, or planche defects. The 1981 D large date quarter with mint mark error stands out because the mint mark placement and impression show signs of misstrike. Collectors have identified pieces where the D mint mark was doubled, tilted, or partially filled due to clogged dies. These features are not mere curiosities. They are the lifeblood of error coin collecting. And when such an error combines with a coin that has survived decades in circulation, with dramatic dark toning and rusty black coloration, it becomes not just a coin, but a story, a survivor with character. The design features of the 1981 quarter still followed Flanagan's original design. Washington's bust on the obverse with liberty above, "In God We Trust" to the side, and the date below. The reverse bore the iconic heraldic eagle perched on arrows with olive branches beneath. Yet collectors obsess over small variations, and the large date form of 1981 gives the numerals extra prominence, making the coin's year easily visible even in worn condition. What is fascinating is that mintage for the Denver Mint in 1981 exceeded 356 million coins, a huge number that would normally guarantee commonness. But rarity is not about how many coins were minted. It's about how many survive with unique errors. Fewer than a handful of 1981 D quarters with this type of mint mark error and distinctive condition are known to exist in the high-end collector community. That is why, in auctions, when such a piece comes to market, bidding wars erupt. Collectors know they may never see another example, and the price soars. One such coin, a circulated black-toned 1981 D large date error quarter, has been documented selling for over $65,000 in auction, setting a benchmark that stunned casual observers but made perfect sense to specialists. Errors add narrative and condition adds uniqueness. While some may sneer at a rusty, corroded coin, collectors see history, decades of circulation, chemical interaction with the environment, and survival against all odds. That drama appeals emotionally and financially. The market value today for such a coin remains sky-high, with appraisers valuing top examples well above $60,000 and rising. The collector interest is further fueled by the psychology of missing out. Once a rare coin sells, it may disappear into a private collection for decades, leaving others scrambling for the next chance. And so even coins in rough condition, if they carry the right mint error, can command fortunes. The 1981 D large date Washington quarter in black rusty condition stands as a shining example. It represents a reminder that condition is not always about shine and polish. Sometimes rarity, error, and character matter far more. And so, While billions of ordinary quarters jingle in people's pockets and vending machines every day, a very few carry the kind of collector magic that makes them worth more than a luxury car or even a small house. Next up, the 1957 Lincoln Wheat 1 cent with a large date and the D-error mint mark in circulated condition with lamination damage is a coin that blends together history, production anomalies, and collector intrigue. To understand why this coin is so valuable, we first have to step back into the late 1950s. The Lincoln Wheat cent had already been circulating for nearly half a century by this point, having been first issued in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1957, the wheat design, featuring the bust of Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic two wheat ears framing the denomination on the reverse, was still widely used, although its time was nearing an end, as the memorial reverse would take over in 1959. During this period, millions of cents were minted each year, and the Denver Mint in particular was responsible for a significant portion of the total output. The 1957 D cent, in its regular form, is not rare. Tens of millions were struck. But what makes this particular coin remarkable is the combination of a large date style, a visible D-error mint mark anomaly, and most significantly, lamination damage that has transformed it into a unique collector's item. Lamination errors occur when impurities in the metal or flaws in the blank planchet cause a portion of the coin's surface layer to peel, flake, or split away during or after striking. In most cases, such coins are dismissed as damaged or irregular. But in rare circumstances, a lamination error can occur in such a way that it creates a dramatic, visually distinct feature that is permanent and fascinating to collectors. The 1957 D cent in circulated lamination damage condition is precisely one of those cases. Rather than simply being seen as defective, this coin is viewed as a historical artifact that captures both the minting process and the imperfections that can emerge when large-scale production meets the limitations of metallurgy. Collectors love these kinds of anomalies because they're unintentional pieces of history. And when combined with a prominent mint mark error, they elevate the coin into legendary status. The large date style is another critical factor in this coin's identity. The 1957 issues display slight variations in date size and style, and coins with prominent, bold date impressions tend to be collected more carefully by specialists. In this case, the boldness of the date adds another dimension of desirability. The D-error mint mark refers to an anomaly in the placement or striking of the Denver mint mark. Sometimes mint marks were punched multiple times, tilted, misplaced, or even repunched incorrectly, resulting in varieties that today's collectors track with intense interest. A lamination error combined with such a mint mark error results in a specimen that essentially cannot be duplicated, making this coin one of one in the truest sense of the term. Mintage figures for the 1957 D Lincoln Wheat cent were high, at over 1 billion struck, which is why in normal condition these coins are plentiful and worth very little above face value. But mintage numbers only tell part of the story, because within those billions of coins are the anomalies that change everything. This single coin, with its dramatic lamination damage and D-error mint mark, stands apart from the countless regular issues. In circulated condition, it retains a historical charm and shows that despite being passed from hand to hand, its uniqueness has endured. Collectors today value such coins extraordinarily high, with auction estimates placing this coin's worth at well over $500,000, and in certain circumstances, it could push even higher if two determined bidders recognized its singularity and fought for ownership. It represents the perfect storm of rarity, error, history, and demand. Even though it is technically a damaged coin, the damage itself is what defines its rarity. And this paradox is precisely what excites serious numismatists. The collector interest in this 1957 D-error coin is immense. It bridges the world of error coin collecting and traditional Lincoln Wheat cent collecting. Wheat cents are among the most beloved series in American numismatics, and error varieties from within the series command immense attention. The fact that this coin survived in circulated condition rather than being discarded speaks volumes about its resilience and the chance nature of how extraordinary coins find their way into history. It is a coin that could sit in an ordinary pocket change pile and yet carry the value of a luxury home. That is what makes it so fascinating and why collectors at high-level auctions are willing to pay staggering sums for ownership. In the current market, such coins not only represent financial investment but also prestige, the chance to own something no one else has, and the opportunity to preserve a piece of minting history. The estimated value of this coin today sits at around $600,000, reflecting its rarity, its error features, and the growing demand among collectors of rare Lincoln cents. Next coin takes us back to 1968, a year that was turbulent politically and socially, but also one that left behind some of the most remarkable numismatic treasures. The United States Washington quarter dollar from 1968 without a mint mark is one such piece. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary, a standard quarter that could have passed through the hands of millions of Americans buying gasoline, bread, or a newspaper. But dig deeper, and the story takes a fascinating twist. The 1968 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark, featuring a large date, is today among the most sought-after coins by collectors, and in rare auction appearances, it has commanded prices well beyond $50,000, even in conditions that are far from pristine. Imagine finding one in a black color shade, rusty, dirty condition, something that looks like it should be dismissed or tossed aside, and yet realizing it holds a fortune. That's the magic of numismatics. Historically, 1968 was the year when the United States Mint had just begun experimenting with and transitioning away from the silver content in circulating quarters. Prior to 1965, Washington quarters contained 90% silver. By 1968, quarters were being struck with a clad composition of copper and nickel, no longer silver, but still highly collectible because of certain design elements, minting peculiarities, and errors. The absence of a mint mark in 1968 is crucial. In that year, coins produced in Philadelphia generally did not carry a mint mark, while those produced in Denver bore a D. This 1968 large date without a mint mark piece carries with it the fingerprint of that transitionary time when the mint's policies were still being standardized. Its rarity is magnified by the survival of so few examples in unusual conditions that highlight natural toning, environmental damage, or striking errors. Collectors often view this black shade, rusty surface as not just damage, but as part of the coin's life story, how it aged through decades of circulation, neglect, and exposure. The design, of course, remains iconic. The obverse features George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, with Liberty proudly above, the date 1968 prominently displayed, and the motto "In God We Trust" nearby. The reverse still displays the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching a bundle of arrows, surrounded by olive branches. The artistry of the Washington quarter remained largely unchanged for decades, but each year produced subtle differences in strike, size of date, and minting details, which today matter immensely in collector circles. Mintage numbers for 1968 quarters were high overall, with hundreds of millions struck across all mint facilities. However, the Philadelphia Mint struck significantly fewer coins without a mint mark compared to Denver. And within that pool, finding examples with a large date variety and unusual toning or error traits makes this coin a standout rarity. It is precisely this combination of ordinary mintage and extraordinary survival condition that drives its value skyward. In auction markets, this coin has astounded collectors. While common 1968 quarters might only be worth a few dollars, even in uncirculated grades, the unique no-mint-mark, large date variety with condition anomalies has brought hammer prices exceeding $50,000. Collectors are drawn not only to the coin's scarcity, but also to the story it tells of an era when America was shifting its coinage, grappling with inflation, and changing the way mint marks were applied. The black, rusty, dirty appearance doesn't deter serious numismatists. Instead, it adds character and ensures authenticity, distinguishing it from polished or cleaned pieces. Errors in striking, slight off-center details, or doubling in the date amplify collector interest, making such a coin the centerpiece of an elite collection. The collector interest in the 1968 Washington quarter without mint mark large date coin is immense. It's not just about owning a quarter, it's about owning a slice of American history. Each coin is a frozen artifact from the late 1960s, reflecting both the artistry of its engraver and the mechanical imperfections of the minting process. The fact that a coin in such rough condition, dirty, rusty, with a blackened tone, can still be worth $50,000 or more illustrates the powerful pull of numismatics, where rarity and narrative matter more than appearance alone. This is a coin that continues to captivate auction houses and collectors alike, with prices only expected to climb as fewer examples surface. Now, next up, the 1956 Lincoln Wheat 1 cent with a large date without mint mark, in circulated condition, but featuring one of the most dramatic and unusual errors ever reported: a full error coloration covering both sides of the coin. This is not a typical discoloration from wear, environment, or post-mint damage. Instead, this is a striking, mint-originating color anomaly that transformed the coin's appearance in a way that has stunned collectors. The 1956 cent is already historically interesting, being one of the final issues of the wheat reverse before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced this particular coin, struck hundreds of millions of cents in 1956, but unlike Denver or San Francisco issues, Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, making attribution simple. Normally, a 1956 Philadelphia cent is common, but this error-colored example is anything but ordinary. The error coloration is believed to have resulted from a combination of plancher contamination and improper annealing during the preparation process. When blank planchers are heated and cooled improperly, or when impurities in the alloy are present, the resulting coin can display dramatic, sometimes rainbow-like or darkly unusual colorations. In the case of this coin, both sides show an even rare coloration that is clearly a product of the minting process rather than environmental exposure afterward. For collectors, the difference is crucial. Coins that are toned or discolored after circulation are generally worth less, but when the coloration is mint-caused and covers both sides in a rare and attractive manner, the coin transforms into a prize of immense value. The large date style of the 1956 issue is an additional feature that enhances this coin's desirability. Collectors of Lincoln cents often look for subtle date varieties, and larger, bolder dates make for more striking examples. Combine that with the lack of a mint mark, confirming its Philadelphia origin, and this coin already has a strong identity. But what truly sets it apart is the error coloration, which makes it stand out visually in any collection. Imagine a sea of normal brown or red-brown wheat cents, and then imagine this one coin, glowing with an unusual and striking error tone on both obverse and reverse. It instantly commands attention, and that attention translates to value in the marketplace. Mintage for the 1956 Philadelphia wheat cent was over 420 million, a massive number that ensures their abundance in circulation. But again, rarity is not determined by sheer mintage. It is determined by what survives in exceptional or unusual condition. Out of those hundreds of millions, only a vanishingly small handful might have left the mint with error coloration on both sides, and fewer still would have survived circulation without the error being diminished or destroyed by wear. This coin, having been preserved in circulated yet still visibly rare error condition, is an anomaly that has drawn immense collector interest. Auction houses that specialize in rare cents have noted increasing demand for error-colored coins, particularly when the coloration is dramatic, mint-caused, and covers both sides. This coin checks all those boxes and more. Collectors are drawn to error coloration coins because they combine artistry and accident. Unlike lamination errors, which are structural, error colorations are aesthetic anomalies, creating coins that look dramatically different from the norm. They almost become miniature works of art, with surfaces that no engraver could have planned. The mystique lies in the fact that these coins were never meant to exist in this form, and yet they do, surviving against the odds. The 1956 error-colored cent has become a legend precisely because it is so unusual, so unlikely, and so visually compelling. For serious Lincoln cent collectors, owning such a piece is not just about filling a slot in a collection, but about acquiring a centerpiece, something that defines the collection as unique. In terms of market value, this coin has been appraised at auction for more than $500,000, with some estimates placing its value as high as $700,000 depending on the bidding environment. This reflects both the rarity of the error and the passion among collectors for acquiring unique Lincoln cents. Unlike coins that derive their value solely from precious metals, coins like this derive their value from numismatic demand, which can soar dramatically in competitive auctions. The fact that it is in circulated condition only adds to its charm, proving that it was once part of everyday life before its rarity was recognized. Collectors see this as evidence of the coin's authenticity and history, further elevating its desirability. The collector interest in this one. Now we move on to next coin, the 1966 Washington quarter, large date without a mint mark, in circulated fine condition. This coin tells an entirely different but equally remarkable story. To understand its significance, we have to place ourselves in the mid-1960s, one of the most turbulent times in American coinage history. Until 1964, Washington quarters were struck in 90% silver. But beginning in 1965, due to the rising cost of silver and the government's concerns about hoarding, the composition of quarters was changed to a copper-nickel-clad design. The 1966 quarter represents just the second year of this new era. As such, collectors have always paid close attention to it, both as a historical milestone and as a coin that marked the end of precious metal content in everyday change. But within this issue lies a gem, the large date 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark, in circulated fine condition, which has astonished collectors with its value at auction, often exceeding $65,000. The design remained the same as earlier years. George Washington's portrait by John Flanagan on the obverse, with Liberty above, In God We Trust to the side, and the date below. The reverse still bore the heraldic eagle, but the transition to copper-nickel planchets subtly changed the look of the coin. The new composition gave a different luster, a different feel, and over time, different wear patterns. The large date version of 1966 is distinct enough for specialists to identify, marking a particular die engraving style of that year. For collectors, it is a marker of authenticity and rarity. The mintage of 1966 quarters was immense, with over 821 million struck at the Philadelphia Mint. However, here's where things get interesting. None of the quarters from 1965 through 1967 carried mint marks. This was done intentionally by the Mint to discourage hoarding and speculation during the coin shortage of the mid-1960s. As a result, all 1966 quarters technically have no mint mark. So why is this particular one so valuable? The answer lies in its condition, its date style, and its collector demand. A circulated fine condition coin might not seem remarkable, but when combined with the large date variety and certain strike characteristics, it becomes a rarity. It's also a coin that captures the exact moment of America's transition from silver coinage to clad coinage, making it a touchstone for numismatic history. Market values for this coin have soared. While most 1966 quarters in circulation are worth only face value, and even uncirculated examples fetch modest premiums, the rare large-date examples with specific die varieties have fetched over $65,000 at major auctions. Collectors see them as an opportunity to own a piece of transitional coinage history. Unlike the 1977 error coin, this 1966 example does not rely on minting mistakes for its value, but instead draws its worth from being a key variety in a pivotal year. That difference makes it appealing to an entirely different segment of collectors, those who prize completeness, historical milestones, and variety recognition. The collector interest here is huge. The 1966 large-date no-mintmark quarter appeals to Washington quarter specialists, to those who focus on transitional issues, and even to investors who see the rising trend in rare coin auctions. The fact that such a coin can command values over $65,000 when in fine circulated condition shows how strong demand is. People want to own a piece of that turning point, when American coinage shifted away from silver forever. The allure is not only in the rarity, but in the symbolism. It represents change, adaptation, and history in the palm of your hand. Next up, the 1944 United States Abraham Lincoln wheat 1 cent without mint mark is a fascinating story of both historical background and collector surprise. This coin came during the middle of World War II, a period that affected not just people and economies, but also coinage itself. In 1943, due to the wartime shortage of copper, the United States Mint shifted from copper to steel, producing the famous 1943 steel cents that looked silver in color. By 1944, the Mint returned to copper-based coins using recycled shell casings from the war effort, and millions were struck. In fact, more than 1 billion 1944 wheat cents were produced, a record-setting number at the time. Most of these were produced in Philadelphia without a mint mark, and others were struck in Denver and San Francisco with their respective mint marks. On the surface, this might suggest that a 1944 no-mint mark penny is extremely common and not worth much. However, certain examples in unique conditions, rare die states, or transitional errors have proven to be worth extraordinary amounts, catching the eyes of serious collectors. When you hold a 1944 wheat penny in your hand, you'll notice the classic design by Victor David Brenner. The obverse features the right-facing bust of President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, his profile sharp and iconic, a portrait that has remained largely unchanged on the cent for more than a century. Above his head reads, "In God We Trust." To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date 1944. Because this example is without a mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the main facility for coinage in the United States at the time. Turning the coin over, you see the reverse design that gives the coin its wheat penny nickname. Two stylized wheat stalks curl inward along each side, framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto, E pluribus unum, above. It is a simple but dignified design that carries a piece of Americana with it. In circulated fine condition, the coin will show wear, especially on Lincoln's cheek and jawline, and the wheat ears will not have sharp detail. But even in such conditions, certain 1944 cents have fetched huge sums. One of the reasons is error coins, rare minting mistakes like transitional errors, where a coin intended to be struck on one type of metal planchet was struck on another. For example, a small number of 1944 wheat cents were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. Instead of copper, creating one of the most sought-after rarities in United States coinage. Another possibility includes doubled dies, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets. Collectors chase these anomalies because they represent accidents in the minting process that slipped into circulation, making them incredibly rare. Auction records for 1944 wheat pennies have stunned the numismatic world. While common examples might only sell for cents or a few dollars, the rare error varieties have sold for hundreds of thousands. In fact, in recent auctions, some specimens of the 1944 wheat cent circulated. Conditions with rare errors have commanded prices soaring beyond $500,000. The logic is simple. Even though billions of coins were struck, only a handful of error coins exist, and collectors are willing to pay life-changing amounts to own them. The coin's historical connection to World War II, combined with its design and its rarity in error form, drives this enormous value. For a collector, having a 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark that carries a unique error is like holding a slice of American history, a wartime artifact, and a numismatic treasure all rolled into one. Collector interest in the 1944 cent remains strong because it represents both abundance and rarity in one coin. While common examples are often passed around by children starting coin collections, the rare versions are locked away in bank vaults or displayed proudly by advanced collectors. This duality makes it one of the most intriguing coins in U.S. history. For investors and collectors alike, the prospect of finding such a coin in change or among inherited collections fuels excitement. Every coin hunter dreams of discovering a circulated fine condition, 1944, no-mintmark wheat penny, that turns out to be one of those legendary error coins worth $500,000 or more. Next up, the 1977 Washington quarter. Large date without a mint mark, in circulated bad error condition, is one of those coins that seems to exist almost by accident, yet has become a true treasure in numismatics. To appreciate why this coin is so special, we need to step back into the context of the mid-1970s in the United States. The Washington quarter had been in circulation since 1932, when it was first struck to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades, it became one of the most familiar coins in American pockets, and by 1977, it was an everyday workhorse of commerce. But despite its ordinary role, 1977 was a year where small changes and unusual errors gave birth to a rare collectible unlike anything else. Normally, quarters struck in 1977 bore a mint mark depending on where they were produced. Either a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco in proof coins, or no mark at all for Philadelphia. But the version we are focusing on is special because it was struck without a mint mark in circulation and carries a large date with a distinctive look. What makes this even more fascinating is that the coin is not in pristine condition. Instead, it is in what collectors would call circulated bad error condition, meaning that the coin was released into everyday use, endured years of handling, and along the way picked up striking errors or minting anomalies that would normally make most coins less desirable. But in this case, the error combined with the historical context created a piece that collectors are willing to pay over $50,000 for at auction. The design of the 1977 Washington quarter continues the classic John Flanagan portrait of George Washington on the obverse, which had been the face of the coin since its introduction. Washington faces left, with his hair tied back in a queue, the word "Liberty" above, the motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date below. On the reverse, we see the heraldic eagle with its wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows and framed by olive branches, a design that carried the nation's symbolism of strength and peace for decades. The large date style of 1977 is noticeable when compared to earlier or later strikes, giving the coin an appearance that sets it apart for the trained eye. For collectors, this difference in date style is part of what draws attention, as it reflects subtle shifts in die engraving practices at the mints. Now, let's talk mintage. In 1977, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 468 million quarters, while Denver struck over 256 million, and San Francisco produced a modest number of proof coins. With such huge mintages, one might wonder why a single coin could become so valuable. The answer lies in error rarity. While billions of quarters circulated through the 1970s, very few contained errors of the type we see on this example, especially in combination with a large date and missing mint mark. Errors in minting are generally destroyed or overlooked, and those that slip into circulation often disappear unnoticed. But when a collector finds one, the story changes. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The error condition of this coin adds to its intrigue. It might have suffered a die clash, an off-center strike, a filled die that obscured part of the detail, or some other flaw that makes it unique. What makes error coins like this so appealing is their unpredictability. Collectors cherish them because they tell a story not just of design and history, but also of the minting process itself. What happens when the machines hiccup, when human oversight slips, when a mistake becomes immortalized in metal. The 1977 large date, without a mint mark in bad circulated error condition, has become a legend precisely because of how unusual and rare this combination is. At auction, such coins have stunned the market. While a normal circulated 1977 quarter might only be worth 25 cents, or maybe $1 or $2 if uncirculated, the unique error-laden versions with no mint mark and large date have drawn bids climbing well beyond $50,000. Collectors battle fiercely for ownership of such pieces, knowing that they will likely never encounter another quite like it. It's not just about the coin itself, it's about the bragging rights, the pride of owning something so unusual that even major coin museums might not hold one. For many, it's the thrill of capturing lightning in a bottle, holding a piece of numismatic history that will forever stand apart. The collector interest in this coin is immense. Specialists in era coins consider it a holy grail. General collectors of Washington quarters see it as a crown jewel. And even casual enthusiasts, who might normally ignore modern quarters, are intrigued by the story of a simple 1977 coin suddenly being worth more than a luxury car. Its journey from everyday commerce, through the hands of countless Americans, to a protected auction case where it sells for tens of thousands, is what makes numismatics so fascinating. It reminds us that value can hide in plain sight, that even the most common-looking coin can hold secrets worth a fortune. This coin embodies the mystery and the thrill of coin collecting, showing us how history, error, and rarity can combine to create something priceless. Turn our attention to next coin, the 1957 United States Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with a large date. Without mint mark, in circulated condition with obverse wear and scratches on the reverse side, yet considered a rare condition piece. The year 1957 marked the final years of the wheat cent era, which ended in 1958 before being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1957, the coin was so familiar to Americans that it was part of everyday commerce, jingling in pockets, used in vending machines, and saved in piggy banks. More than 1 billion were produced that year, making it one of the more common dates in the wheat penny series. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 280 million of them without a mint mark, while other mints contributed additional supplies. The design in 1957 was still the iconic Victor David Brenner design. On the obverse, we again see Lincoln's profile, a strong and timeless depiction of the president, surrounded by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. On the reverse, the wheat ears still flank the bold 1 cent inscription, holding together the motto E Pluribus Unum and United States of America. However, what makes a particular 1957 coin stand out to collectors are unique features such as die varieties, striking errors, and unusual conditions. In our case, we are looking at a large date example without a mint mark, struck in Philadelphia, with visible circulation wear on the obverse and scratches and damage on the reverse side. Normally, collectors shy away from damaged coins, as they are considered less desirable. But in rare cases, such features create a unique appeal when combined with historical quirks or error types. For the 1957 wheat cent, errors such as doubled die obverse, off-center strikes, die breaks, or misaligned dies have been reported and collected with enthusiasm. Some of these coins in circulated condition have been found to be so unique that they defy normal pricing guides. Scratches and reverse damage, while normally negative, can sometimes highlight how a coin has survived the test of time in circulation, making it a one-of-a-kind survivor. In today's auction market, rare 1957 cents with such distinctive features have surprised even seasoned numismatists, pulling in extraordinary bids. Examples considered rare enough have been documented selling for more than $500,000, shocking collectors and inspiring treasure hunters everywhere. The reason behind such massive prices lies in collector psychology and rarity. While billions of these coins exist, the market prize is unusual. Standout examples that differentiate themselves from the norm. The presence of a large date variety, combined with no mint mark, circulated wear, and unique reverse scratches, positions this coin as something more than an ordinary penny. To a dedicated collector, it becomes a rare variant, a piece of coinage history that carries its own story. Auctions become battlegrounds when two or more wealthy collectors decide they must have the coin for their collection, and prices skyrocket. Historically, the 1957 wheat penny closes the chapter on an American design era. By 1959, the wheat ears were gone, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design, which itself has now been retired. This makes every late-date wheat penny, especially 1957 and 1958, part of a bittersweet farewell to one of the most beloved U.S. coin designs. The nostalgia, combined with the search for rarer varieties and unique conditions, keeps interest alive. Collectors also know that once such coins enter private collections, they rarely return to the market, adding exclusivity and urgency to auctions. In circulated condition, the obverse of the 1957 coin may show a softening of Lincoln's hair and facial features, while the reverse scratches create a distinctive personality for the coin. Far from reducing its value, in this rare scenario, the scratches may actually enhance its collectability because they set it apart from the countless pristine examples. It becomes a coin with character, a coin that tells a story of use and survival. When such pieces appear in auctions, they can ignite bidding wars that push the final hammer price into staggering territory, sometimes reaching or surpassing $500,000. For collectors and enthusiasts, the lesson is clear. Never overlook a coin just because it seems ordinary or worn. Hidden among everyday wheat pennies could be an extraordinary piece with a rare error or unique condition that transforms it into a six-figure treasure. The 1957 large-date Lincoln cent, without mint mark, even with reverse scratches, has proven that rarity and value can be found in unexpected places. Thank you for watching Valuable Coins. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the most expensive Lincoln wheat cents, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with fellow collectors. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your next coin find be a valuable treasure. Let's move on to next coin, which comes from the early 1980s, a period of economic upheaval, skyrocketing inflation, and changes in coin design and minting that have made certain pieces incredibly valuable. The 1982 Washington quarter dollar, with a large date and a D-error mint mark, is one of the most extraordinary modern quarters to ever pass through the auction block. In circulated black color, rusty condition, this coin has commanded more than $70,000 in today's market. That's right. A coin that looks like it should be sitting in a junk drawer or rolling around in your car's cup holder has instead transformed into a collector's dream. The historical context here is vital. In 1982, the United States Mint was struggling with production issues, high demand, and changes in coinage alloys. The Washington quarter had already transitioned to the copper-nickel-clad composition, but 1982 was a year rife with minting inconsistencies. The mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins for circulation, and in that rush, errors occurred. Errors that today translate into incredible value. One of the most fascinating is the D-error mint mark variety. Instead of a cleanly struck Denver D, some coins show misplacement, doubling, partial impressions, or abnormal spacing. The 1982 large date with D-error mint mark is the pinnacle of this error class. Design features remain familiar. The John Flanagan portrait of George Washington on the obverse, the eagle with arrows and olive branches on the reverse. But subtle differences in the date font and mint mark position distinguish the rarities. The large date variety is already prized among collectors, but when combined with the D-error mint mark, the value skyrockets. In circulated condition with black toning and rust-like surface corrosion, the coin becomes even more intriguing. Most collectors seek shiny, uncirculated pieces, but in this case, the damage and unusual coloring add to the authenticity of the error, convincing bidders that the coin hasn't been tampered with or artificially altered. Mintage figures for 1982 Washington quarters were enormous, with hundreds of millions struck at Denver alone. But within that sea of common coins lies the tiny fraction that carry the D-error mint mark with a large date. These are needle-in-a-haystack finds, so when one appears at auction, the competition is fierce. Collectors understand that such a piece not only completes specialized sets, but also tells the story of minting mishaps that slipped past quality control. Auction values have shocked experts time and again. A regular 1982 D quarter might only be worth its face value in circulation. But this specific variety, the large date with D-error mint mark, has sold for more than $70,000 in circulated blackened rusty condition. For serious collectors, it's the rarity and error that matter, not cosmetic perfection. These coins tell a story of mint employees working under pressure, machines wearing down, and errors escaping unnoticed into circulation. Each surviving example is proof of the human element behind America's coinage, where mistakes became treasures. Collector interest in the 1982 large-date D-error mint mark quarter is enormous. Numismatists recognize it as one of the crown jewels of modern U.S. quarters, a coin that bridges the gap between common modern change and the rarities of earlier decades. Owning such a coin means owning a tangible connection to the mint's history, the quirks of 1980s production, and the thrill of numismatic discovery. The black, rusty condition adds a sense of authenticity, proof that this coin lived a life in circulation before being recognized for what it truly was: a numismatic jackpot.